Welcome everyone to our, if technology works out, our second edition of Wednesday night sessions online through KickstART Farmington. My usual shout out and thank you to the KickstART Farmington organization, a local nonprofit here in Farmington, Michigan, supporting arts and artists. And with the pandemic, we have moved online. And so joining us tonight is our second reader for the Wednesday night sessions online series, Lannie Stabile. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to toss it over to her to introduce herself and do the reading, and then I'll pop back in and ask a couple of quick questions at the end. So Lannie, thank you. Take it away.
Thank you. I just wanted to say real quick, Mitch, thanks so much for having me on this. I'm really excited to be the second person in this program. Just a couple things about me. I'm the managing editor of Barron Magazine. We just dropped a huge and beautiful issue called Fallow/Unrest. I would encourage you to check that out. And I'm also, just recently, I won the 2020 Outright chapbook competition for poetry. So I have a book dropping this month called Strange Furniture about some childhood issues growing up where my mom would have a lot of strangers in the house, and that's really what this reading is going to be about, most of it. And yeah, I'm just going to jump right in. So the first piece I have is called Birding. You were everyone's Mama Robin, cracking a warm egg over the fledglings in the neighborhood. I could not move without brushing against the wings of your adopted flock, even as I squawked for the nest to empty. After all, shouldn't blood paint your red breast without the stretch of hungry necks? This maternal clutching, this communal roosting, is how I found myself sniped and unfeathered, watching Mama Robin cooing, and Mama Robin churring, and Mama Robin loving all the birds. So the second piece is about my mom, my mom's health, really. Like every Easter, for some reason or another, she always finds herself in the ICU, but then she bounces back. Just this last Easter is when I wrote this poem. It's called Karen Kilgariff Says the Death of a Mother is like a slow motion shark attack. And the danger lurks within a tender body attended to by great white lab coats. Consumption is a week-long special, and everyone is tuning in. Panic ripples through the daughter like an endless wave of teeth. Mama drops from her mouth one more fossil on the ocean floor. This next piece is called The Most Dangerous Fish. It's about, excuse me, it's about the endless troops of alcoholics that I grew up with. It's the most dangerous fish. When temper swims through a man's hands, he becomes a contaminated stream, growing scales thick as convenience store bricks. When I was 12, the most dangerous fish was a bottle of cheap wallop, $2 for 40 ounces of menace. We young minnows thrash our tails against the current, feeling for the dry bank in our mother's river. With gaping lips, we ask, why must we remain belly up? And our mothers answer, because we are hooked on weakness. It's true what they say. The last thing a fish notices is water. So this next piece is actually the beginning poem of Strange Furniture. So I thought that would be a really good piece to include in case you're interested. It's called My Greatest Fear is Turning into My Mother. Childhood was boxes and crates and hope chests and bunk bed and pillows and sleepless nights and keep the light on for reading and utility bills and cable bills and mortgage and no insurance until 16, and scraped elbows and chipped teeth and busted head from softball, and it doesn't look like you need stitches, and sewing patterns and newspapers and drawings from preschool and expired Farmer Jack ads and birth certificate somewhere around here, and holes in walls and no room to walk and cigarette air and black ring tub. And is that a roach? And dog and cat, 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 and hairy couch and hairy chair and hairballs and dust balls and mothballs and broken Bissell and 5-foot trophies and perfect attendance awards and lifetime originals and NCIS and please record the nanny and crusted pans and sticky pots and food bank beans and mayonnaise sandwiches and first kiss and first hand job and first blow job and first bruise when dad finds out, and man knees and man hands and man breath and man beer and man vodka and man against man and tantrums and bipolar and manic depression and 911 and suicide attempts and crying before school and growing up fast and holding on to too much and can't move and can't breathe and can't seem to locate anything, including an exit. And chances are I will lose sight of the mother and perish inside this childhood. I also wanted to shift a little bit and read a poem about my father, who I didn't actually get much of a chance to know. He died when I was 3, and it's just kind of wishful, like that I had a relationship with him. My father wears a Hawaiian shirt to die in. I don't remember him besides hide and seek, a perfect pair of slippers calling out as I titter beneath a crib. But everyone weathered with my blood says I was a daddy's girl. I helped him fold and tuck a bed, laundry, the lining of his casket. He was patient as the earth. A Baptist minister, he never swore. 2 things orbited him: Jewish ancestry, a dark and obvious comet he feared might plummet on Germanic command, and a dim horseshoe of hair, like nailing it between his ears would bring him luck. But still, he died at the kitchen table in a Hawaiian shirt with a Pepsi in his hand, a last word like gas through his teeth: shit. I also wanted to read a poem about my brother, who was a large part of my life, actually, and some of the trauma growing up. This is called Sibling Rivalry. He starts the conversation with, "I don't always agree with the things you do," followed by a long list of things he does not always agree with that I do. Of course, I cannot get offended because my brother ends with, "But I still love you because you're family." 20% of meerkats are killed by their own kind. If she senses a defect, a mother hamster will eat her tiny pink pup. Hyena cubs often attack siblings not yet emerged from the amniotic sac. And once, I called the police when his hands gnawed at my throat. And I wanted to again shift and just read the opening poem of my book, Little Masticated Darlings, which was published by Wild Press Books. It's about a serial killer in Michigan, his victims, and really my tie to that man. So the opening poem is called "And You Unearth a Photograph of Your Past and a Stranger." You must have been 3 or 4 years old pastel and tow-headed. Your mother is there, youthfully stoic. Your face registers distress even while your tiny hand rests deadenly on the shoulders of a man in prison-issued khakis. His thin fingers choke your thigh as he squeezes your body into the cold space between him and your mother. And you ask her who the man is, but she will only say, "That's Ron Bailey." So you Google the name and learn the arms that rocked you to sleep once strangled two small boys. The thought doesn't invade until the memories do. You remember lovers' necks in the preoccupation of pulse, your clumsy hips toppling a television onto a litter of newborn kittens, claws hovering over the unsuspecting back of a friend at an intersection. As the truck lumbers by, you shake your head and ask, "What the hell am I doing?" You think of his captured hands pressing into the pink ruffles of your flesh, and it is in that moment you first wonder about the transference of sin. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for listening.
Oh man, those are incredible.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a few of your things online, but I haven't read that much. Those are, well, I'm getting the books. Let's put it that way.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really proud of this one. Like, I was proud of Little Masticated Darlings, but I think that this next one is really more of me and not a story that I'm telling. It's just skin and bones and all the stuff inside.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it definitely comes through. Those are the endings are powerful. I'm sorry if you said this in the introduction, but how your dad, like, he literally just passed away with a Pepsi in his hand.
Yeah, that's my mom hasn't told me much about my dad, and like the one story that I've latched onto is that he was at the kitchen table and he had a Hawaiian shirt on, he was drinking a Pepsi, and that this man never swore, and then all of a sudden he just drops this Pepsi and goes, "Shit." And she knew something was really wrong, and he never came back to the house alive.
Wow. It's a heck of a story. That's something else.
Yeah, I just finished a project, or I suppose like tweaking a project where I'm writing golden shovels based on dad jokes about my dad. Like, I don't write much about him, and I decided I should start, and I was like, why not do form poems?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
That's very cool. Very cool. All right, a couple of quick sort of interview style questions for you.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure you mentioned this up at the top, but I sort of met you via Twitter. And on Twitter, I found out that so many writers, poets especially, seems like they work in the education world somehow, keep teaching at the K-12 level or university level or something like that. But you're an accountant, correct?
Yes, I'm a treasury accountant for a veterinarian, like a group of vets.
Okay, that's also very cool. So I'm always fascinated by like the whole behind the scenes thing about writing. So I've taught K-12 writing for years and years and years, and there's the kind of American myth of writers being magical creatures for whom like ideas come fully formed and just pop out onto a typewriter. That really holds. So I always try to tell folks, especially my students, like, no, that's not how writing works. Like William Carlos Williams was a doctor. Like, there's a million examples. Ted Kooser sells insurance. So tell us a little bit about like your process. How does this work? So you're crunching numbers during the day and writing these really powerful personal poems at night?
Yeah, I think it's important to section off, like when you're a person like I am who has like the split right down the middle of right brain, left brain, it's important to section off your creativity and be able to tap into it later when you're ready, and just kind of shut off that hose and start crunching numbers or like problem solve. And what I've found myself doing is there are times when I'm at work and I'll think of something and I jot it down really quick, but mostly I've found what really works for me is that on my lunch, I'll read a book. And that's like where I get the most of my reading done. And then when I get home, I'll force myself to write something. Not always, but like when I've got a project, a deadline really works for me, or like just knowing what I'm going into to write, it forces it out of me. And these pieces are just springing forth, like, who was it, Athena, like,
Yeah.
like just fully formed, and it's crazy. Like there's obviously some editing involved, but for the most part, it's just like plop.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's there's another poet I follow online, works in a grocery store, and he has a very similar response. Like, I'm stocking shelves during the day so that my brain can process and then be creative when the time comes. So I'm fascinated by that.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
I bet that person has a lot of stories right now.
His Twitter feed is lively these days. It's lively. Um, I lost my train of thought. So I also often like to ask a kind of a goofy question that's not necessarily writing related, although this one could be writing related. And I totally switched gears because as I did a quick Twitter check earlier before we started this, and somebody had posted that koala bears and humans' thumbprints look so similar that crime scene investigators can't tell the difference. Which somebody did the quote retweet thing and said, like, what crime scene had both koalas and humans? And I instantly went back to, I'm going to kind of give away my age here, I guess, but I instantly went back to like those live action Disney movies of the 70s with like talking cars and stuff. I'm like, that sounds like a Disney movie. So you're on the spot. You're writing a movie or a NaNoWriMo novel or something. What's the crime scene? Koala, human, thumbprints, both at the crime scene. What happened?
Okay, absolutely. So the human has borrowed $500,000 from this koala, and the koala is actually like a loan shark, or I'll say the koala's leader is a loan shark. And this guy, this human, is not paying things back. He's like, oh, I'll get it next week. I'll get it next week. Or like my wife is pregnant and we need the money for formula. And then the koala is like, I've had it. And he comes in and he's got like, the golden brass knuckles, and he's got a chain around his neck, right? And he's just this tiny koala, but he comes up to the big human and he beats him to a pulp because he didn't give him his money. So, you said on the spot, it's the best I've got right
No,
now.
I mean, that's not only is that good, we got to get you out of Metro Detroit and out to Los Angeles. Like, I think you're missing a calling here. Like, I would watch that movie.
I channeled Zootopia, of course.
Yeah, right. I think you are now in charge of Disney Plus bringing back the live action Goofy film. We've got to get this killer koala on the loose. I love it. All right, well, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you, Lannie, very much for joining us tonight. And we'll make sure when this is out and live, we'll retweet with links to your website and stuff so people can track down Little Masticated Darlings and Strange Furniture. Did I get the titles right?
Yep, you did.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, and viewers, thank you, and I hope everybody's well out there. We'll see you next time.